She isn't rejecting sex, she's rejecting weakness. You've lived it. The polite dates, the careful words, the nervous "is it okay if," and she says not yet, then gives herself to the man who never asked. Machiavelli warned, power is never requested, it's projected. Female desire isn't spoken into existence, it's provoked in silence. In this video, I'll show you how to lead with masculine intent and ignite her desire without begging. If you're tired of being overlooked, stay until the end. 1. Rejecting weakness, not intimacy. She did not reject intimacy. She rejected the weakness that dripped from every word, every hesitant gesture, every glance that begged instead of commanded. That moment when you thought respect meant restraint was the moment she felt nothing. And when she feels nothing, she leaves you standing there, wondering why patience and kindness only made you invisible. Daniel was 34, a project manager in Dallas. He had built a steady life, stable income, nice apartment, weekends free for dinners and trips. With Melissa, he believed he was finally doing everything right. He waited weeks before trying to hold her hand. He asked if she felt comfortable before leaning in for a kiss. He smiled, nodded, and offered to let her decide when the right moment would come. She told friends he was sweet, dependable, the kind of man any woman would be lucky to have. And yet one night, as they sat in his living room after dinner, he leaned toward her with that careful, hesitant pause and whispered, "Do you mind if I—" Her eyes shifted. Not angry, not offended, just flat, like a candle snuffed out. A week later, Melissa said she wanted to slow things down. Days later, Daniel saw her tagged in photos with another man, arm around her waist, no permission asked, no hesitation. That image seared deeper than betrayal. It revealed the truth Daniel refused to see. She did not reject sex. She rejected the energy that asked instead of led. When was the last time she looked at you with flat eyes after you asked if it was okay? Be honest, and I will give you the move that turns that silence into fire. Type a few words or drop a green check right now. Machiavelli would have called it the tragedy of surrender. In the theater of desire, the role of the hesitant man is always cut. Because desire is not logic, not fairness, not reward for good behavior. It is a fire, and fire does not burn for the man who doubts himself. When you ask for heat, you admit you cannot produce it, and when she senses that, the spark dies. What comes next isn't noise. It is the move that makes her addicted to your presence. He thought politeness was strength. She saw it as safety, and safety was boredom dressed in kindness. He believed waiting proved respect. She felt waiting as hesitation, and hesitation told her one thing: he did not believe he deserved her. How many men walk into a date thinking their best weapon is restraint, only to realize too late that restraint is read as weakness? So tonight, stop softening your presence. Do not ask her if she wants you closer. Step in with clarity. Let your gaze speak before your mouth does. Hold yourself steady enough that she feels your desire without you needing to spell it out. And if fear grips you when you try, remember this: fear is the proof that you are breaking out of the role of the polite performer. You are moving into the role of a man. That fear is not the signal to stop. It is the signal that you are finally crossing into power. The next part will reveal the hidden cost of seeking permission, and why every time you ask, you silently hand over the power she craves you to keep. Skip it, and you will keep playing the nice guy who loses her to the one who never asked. 2. The cost of seeking permission. He thought asking made him respectful. She felt it stripped him of all power. Every time he checked if it was okay, every time he sought reassurance, he turned what could have been attraction into an interview. And no woman dreams of filling out a questionnaire when she wanted to feel the surge of desire. Marcus was 31, a financial analyst in Denver. By all accounts, he was stable, disciplined, well-dressed. He had met Claire through friends, and after 3 dates, he believed everything was moving in the right direction. He paid for dinner, he opened doors, he never pressured her. On their fourth night out, walking her back to the car, he leaned in slightly and whispered, "Would it be all right if I kissed you?" Her smile thinned, her gaze flickered. It was not anger, not rejection, but something worse, indifference. She kissed him lightly, more like a thank you than a want. Weeks passed. She kept postponing plans, saying work was busy, saying she needed time. One evening, Marcus scrolled through his phone and saw her tagged in a photo with another man, laughing in his arms, his hand placed firmly at her waist. The sting was not the kiss she shared with someone else. It was the truth that his caution had never stirred her pulse. His respect was read as hesitation, and hesitation was the death of desire. Machiavelli would say this is the hidden tax of weakness. Permission-seeking is the mask of doubt, and doubt is poison in the theater of attraction. Desire is not negotiated, it is ignited. When a man asks to enter, he declares he cannot open the door himself, and once that truth is revealed, she feels the weight of carrying the energy he should have embodied. Next time you feel the urge to ask for her permission, will you stay steady or turn it into a question? If you dare, say it, and I will show you how silence becomes attraction. One word or a fire emoji is enough. Soon you'll see why saying less does not just protect you, it pulls people closer. He believed patience meant value. She felt patience as emptiness. He believed asking meant safety. She read asking as proof that he had nothing to offer but compliance. And when she realized the fire would never come from him, she looked elsewhere. How many men confuse approval with attraction, never realizing that approval is a currency that buys nothing in the economy of desire. So stop making your desire a question. Tonight, when the urge to ask rises, hold it. Do not explain. Do not seek her confirmation. Let her feel the steadiness in your gaze, the quiet certainty that you already know what you want. If anxiety shakes inside you, see it for what it is, proof that you are leaving behind the costume of the nice man. Because a woman will notice when your energy shifts. Not because you asked, but because you no longer needed to. And when she feels that, her curiosity awakens. The next part reveals why leading without asking is not arrogance. It is the only language that sparks her desire. Miss it, and you will stay trapped in the category of the man she respects but never truly wants. 3. Leading without asking. The moment you asked, you killed it. Not the mood, not the chance. Something deeper. Because the instant a man asks permission to act, he tells her without words that he doubts himself. And nothing collapses desire faster than doubt dressed up as politeness. Daniel was 30, a software consultant in Denver. After 3 months of seeing Emma, he thought things were going well. Dinner dates, walks through the park, weekends at her place. He was careful, attentive, always asking questions, always checking if she was comfortable. One night, sitting side by side on her couch, she leaned closer, her hand brushing against his. He felt the warmth, the spark rising in his chest. But instead of acting, he whispered, "Can I kiss you?" She froze, smiled weakly, and pulled back. "Not yet," she said. The air went heavy. He sat there, heart sinking, replaying the moment. Later that week, he saw her out with another man. This guy wasn't careful, wasn't endlessly polite. He simply moved with certainty. He leaned in, she laughed, and she let him. Daniel realized in that instant, it wasn't about fairness, it wasn't about being good enough. It was about the energy he failed to project. His request had betrayed him. He had turned intimacy into a transaction, as if he needed her signature before stepping forward. And with that, he lost her attraction. When did you last whisper, "Can I?" only to watch her pull back and give herself to someone else? Do not lie. I will show you why that moment erased her desire. Write a few words or drop an X so others can see it. Machiavelli warned, power is never given, it is taken with presence. Female desire is not a debate won by asking the right question. It is a mirror that reflects what you project. When you ask, "Can I?" You hand her the pen to write your story, and in her eyes, the leading man just stepped off the stage. What comes next isn't rejection. It's the hidden language of desire that never leaves her lips, yet shapes every choice she makes. He thought leadership meant waiting for her approval. She saw hesitation, not respect, and hesitation felt like weakness. He believed asking proved care. She heard doubt and lost desire. How many times has this same script played out in silence, turning moments of closeness into moments of distance? Stop asking tonight. Stop turning intimacy into an application process. Instead, hold the gaze longer. Let silence do the asking. Move with steady intent. If she resists, you won't collapse. If she receives, the energy will flow naturally. And if trusting that feels impossible right now, stay, because the next part reveals what men always miss about female desire, and why words are never enough. Skip what comes next, and you'll keep trying to solve desire with logic, while she gives herself to the man who understands its silent nature. 4. The silent nature of female desire. The moment you believed her words was the moment you lost her desire. She told you she wanted patience, kindness, stability. You believed it as if it were a manual. You gave her steady dinners, polite conversations, gentle touches that asked for nothing, and still she drifted, because what she spoke was not what her body followed. Desire does not shout its name. It waits in silence, in the tension between two breaths, in the unspoken current that logic cannot hold. Ethan was 36, a teacher in Ohio. He had been dating Claire for 3 months. Friends told him she was a keeper. She praised him often. "You're the nicest man I've ever met." He thought it was progress. He drove her to work when her car broke down, cooked for her when she was sick, listened for hours when she vented. But something gnawed at him. Every time he leaned in, she shifted back. One night, after a quiet dinner at his apartment, he reached for her hand. She smiled, squeezed it, and said softly, "I'm just not ready yet." He accepted it, nodded, even told himself it showed respect. Days later, scrolling through social media, his chest froze. A photo of her with another man, pressed against his shoulder, his hand resting firmly on her waist. Ethan stared at the screen, numb. He replayed her words in his head, "Not ready yet." The betrayal wasn't in the image. It was in the realization that she had felt nothing with him. No pull, no spark, no hunger. She had spoken truth to his ears, but her body had been silent all along. When did you last take her words as truth and ignore the silence in her body? If you dare, share it, and I will show you how to read what she never speaks. One word or a clock emoji is enough. Type it now. Niccolo Machiavelli once warned that people rarely confess their true intentions. They speak of loyalty while planning betrayal. The same law applies to desire. What she says may soothe your reason, but what she feels is hidden in her silence. Desire is not an equation to be solved, it is a fire that either ignites in her gut or doesn't. When a man confuses her polite words for passion, he writes himself out of her story before it even begins. What comes next isn't noise, it's the signal that separates the man she tolerates from the man she craves. He thought patience would build intimacy. She saw patience as proof of absence. He believed her compliments meant desire. She offered them only to soften the truth that she felt nothing. And when another man brought mystery, tension, and risk, she followed the pull without looking back. How often is this story not about Ethan, but about the reflection staring from your own mirror? Do not cling to her words as if they are laws. Instead, pay attention to the silence between them. Stop trying to argue your way into her body. Stand firm in your presence. Lean into the unknown and let the mystery of your energy do the speaking. If you hesitate, remind yourself, what she says may flatter, but what she feels is decisive. Trust the current of silence. Skip what comes next and you'll keep chasing promises made with words, never learning why her actions betray them. The next part reveals how your sexual energy speaks louder than anything you say, and why mastering it is the key to turning her silent curiosity into desire. 5. The power of sexual energy. The first time she looked away when you leaned in was not about rejection. It was about energy. She felt the tremor in your gaze, the uncertainty in your body, the quiet plea hidden under your smile. She did not hear your words. She heard your need, and in that instant, the spark died. Marcus was 34, a project manager in Dallas. He met Anna at a friend's dinner party, and from the first night he thought he had found something rare. She laughed at his jokes, touched his arm, agreed to see him again. On their second date, at a quiet jazz lounge, he rehearsed lines in his head. He spoke with charm, tried to impress her with stories of discipline and success. Yet when the moment came, when their faces were close and the music dimmed, his eyes darted, his breath faltered. "May I?" he began, voice cracking. She gave a polite smile, leaned back slightly, and reached for her drink. He felt the shift. Days later, he noticed her replies slowing, her tone growing distant. A week after, she posted photos with another man, less polished, less polite, but his hand gripped her hip with certainty. Marcus stared at the screen, heart hollow, realizing it was not about words. It was about energy. His had begged, the other man's had claimed without speaking. If you could speak to yourself right before you confused words with energy, what would you command? Be ruthless, and I will rewrite it in Machiavelli's voice. One short line or the book emoji is enough. Machiavelli once observed that power is rarely in what is declared, it lives in what is projected. A leader does not need to explain his authority, his presence makes it felt. Sexual energy follows the same law. The man who represses it becomes invisible, the man who lets it overflow becomes vulgar, but the man who contains and directs it becomes magnetic because he creates tension that cannot be ignored. In 30 seconds, I'll show you why this fear you feel around desire is not weakness, it is raw power waiting for control. He thought saying the right words would make her want him. She heard the gap between his speech and his trembling posture. She wanted the man whose silence spoke with certainty, not the one whose sentences begged for approval. How many times has desire slipped away because intention leaked as insecurity? Stop hiding behind politeness. Stop shrinking your presence to make her comfortable. Stand in your desire without apology. Look, hold, breathe steady. She will feel it if it comes from your center, not your need. And if doubt rises, remember this: energy cannot be faked, but it can be trained. The man who masters his sexual energy does not wait for validation, he becomes validation. Miss the next part, and you'll keep mistaking politeness for power. Up next, why non-reactivity turns that energy into something she cannot control, and why that loss of control is what makes her chase. 6. Non-reactivity as a magnetic force. The moment she noticed how quickly your mood shifted to match hers, the game ended. She saw it in the way your face fell when she ignored your message, the restless glance you gave when she laughed at another man's joke, the heat in your voice when her attention drifted. You thought you were showing care. She saw dependence. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man whose emotions she can steer like a wheel. Daniel, 36, worked in finance in Seattle. For months, he had been dating a woman named Claire. At first, things flowed easily, late-night calls, weekends away, playful teasing. But over time, he noticed her testing. A delayed reply here, a cold glance there. Each time he adjusted, sending another message, asking if she was upset, trying to make her smile again. One evening at a wine bar, Claire mentioned a male colleague who complimented her dress. Daniel's jaw tightened, his voice sharpened, and though he tried to mask it with a laugh, his reaction was written all over his face. Claire's expression shifted, just a flicker in her eyes, but he felt the distance settle like ice. Weeks later, she ended things with a single line: "You're too intense, it's exhausting." Daniel sat in silence, replaying every moment, realizing the truth. It wasn't his affection that lost her, it was his reactivity. Machiavelli would remind us that the man who reacts is ruled. The man who remains centered rules. In the politics of desire, every flinch is a confession of weakness. Non-reactivity is not coldness, it is the mask of power. The kind that draws without chasing, that unsettles without speaking. In 30 seconds, I'll show you how this silence, this refusal to be shaken, is what pulls her out of her comfort and into obsession. He thought proving love meant constant reassurance. She saw it as instability, and instability is boring. The man who doesn't crumble when ignored, who doesn't beg when tested, becomes the mirror every woman searches for. Unshaken, unmovable, untouchable. How many of his choices were real, and how many were just reactions to her mood? So here is the shift. Stop answering her silence with noise. Stop running to repair what was never broken. Stay still. Let her lean into the tension of not knowing your next move. She will test again, but when your calm doesn't bend, the power flips quietly back into your hands. What is one test you will refuse to react to this week so she feels your calm instead of your chase? If you dare, declare it and I will give you the strategy to hold the frame. One word or the shield emoji is enough. Drop it now. Skip what comes next and you'll miss the most dangerous truth of all. Why women cannot resist the man they cannot control. Up next, the conclusion that ties every law of power together. Your final blueprint for becoming untouchable. This is where everything comes full circle. What you've just heard was never about lines, tricks, or tactics. It was about reclaiming control. By holding your center, mastering your sexual energy, and no longer being a slave to her moods. You saw that when you stop chasing, she starts leaning in. When you stop proving, you start provoking desire. And understand this clearly. This isn't about being distant or heartless. It is about becoming untouchable. The man who does not beg for intimacy becomes the man who is invited into it. The man who does not explain himself becomes the man remembered long after he leaves the room. A few weeks ago, we received a message from a subscriber named Michael, a 34-year-old engineer from Texas. He told us that for years he struggled with constant rejection. Every date felt like a test he kept failing. After watching our videos, he stopped over-explaining, stopped reacting, and started leading with calm certainty. Within months, he noticed women drawn to him without him doing more because he had finally built the strength to do less. His words were simple but powerful. The day I stopped chasing her approval was the day I became magnetic. You could be next. Subscribe now, because the shift begins quietly, but once it starts, nothing in your relationships will ever look the same again.